Hi everyone, welcome to Val Fashion's YouTube channel. So today we're going to be learning how to make an overlap gown. If this is your first time of stopping by my channel, please subscribe, hit on the notification bell so that you get notified. So to get started, I already have my basic bodies drafted out already. So this basic body will serve as the front and the back basic bodies. So you can see that I have my back armhole and I have my front armhole, and this neckline is for the back. So just in case you don't know how to draft the basic bodies, I'll be dropping the link in the description box so that you can check it out. Okay, so now that I have my basic bodies, I'm going to cut out my back piece first before I'll show us how to adopt it into the overlap for the front. So I'm going to be using this lycra fabric. And my pattern already has my sewing allowance. So I'll just go ahead and cut out the armhole, that's the back armhole first. So I haven't cut out my back armhole, so this is now my back basic bodies. So I'll fold my fabric to cut out the back piece. To cut out my back piece, this is what we have. So right now, I didn't add sewing allowance to the front length of this pattern. Okay, I didn't add any sewing allowance. The half length of my client is 16.5 inches. That's the front half length, and her back half length is 15 inches, which is a difference of 1.5. So that is what has given me the bust that I'm working with here. Okay, so this is what we are going to do. I'm going to cut out the back piece first. So remember I said that the difference is 1.5. So here I'm going to be subtracting 1 inch from this length that I have here. Remember I said I didn't add sewing allowance to join it to the down part. So basically by taking out 1 inch, that means I've added a sewing allowance of half inch to join it to the down part. So it's giving me 15.5 for the front. I hope that makes sense. So I'm just going to cut it out like this. So for this pattern, I already added my sewing allowance of 1 inch. I'm working with a stretchy fabric, so I don't need too much allowance. So I'm just going to add, that's why I added just 1 inch for my sewing allowance. So I'm cutting out the shoulder slant. Go ahead. Okay. So here we are. So remember I said that the back length is shorter with 1.5 inches, but because I need to add sewing allowance to join the down part, so I'm going to be subtracting 1 inch from this length. So here we are. So let's go ahead and mark our 15.5 inches because the back length is 15 inches plus half inch for joining allowance. So here we are. So can you see that if I place back my pattern, you see that is when I fold 1 inch that they will match up. So can you see that? So this is my line. So I'll just go ahead and cut out the back piece. So now we have our upper back piece. It's that simple. I'll keep it aside and then I'll show us how we're going to adopt these basic bodies into our overlap. Okay, so first I'm going to close the bust dart. If you want to have your dart sewn on your outfit, that's fine. You leave it and just notch this place so that you can sew your bust dart. Okay, but I just want to work with my waist dart, so all I need to do is to close the bust dart. So here I'll just do this. So by closing this bust dart, can you see this? By closing this bust dart, now my back and front will match up. But remember that the back already has a sewing allowance of half inch for joining it. So that is why it's going to be different. Instead of giving me the difference of 1.5, it will give me a difference of just 1 inch. Can you see what we have here? So by the time we're cutting on the main fabric, we're going to actually have the difference of 1.5. So this is what we have here. So I'm just going to close my bust dart. So, and I also do the same thing for the other side. Remember that is on fold. So I also do the same thing for the other side. So I'll just check to see if they are matching up. They are matching up. So this is now my basic bodice pattern for the front. So can you see, by closing my bust that you can see the shape I have already. So it's giving me that nice shape to show that there is a bust around here. Okay, so I just want to try to make it flat because I want to adapt it into an overlap. Okay, so this is where my dart is. I'll be working with this side that I have my markings already showing here. So here that I have my dart, I'll come to this dart point and then I'll come out by 2 inches. I'll come out by 2 inches here. So this is where I want the overlap to overlap up to. This is the nipple to nipple point. That's the nipple to nipple point is 8 inches. So from this part, I came out by 2 inches. So now on the neckline here, I already have my crease line. You can see the line showing already. On the neckline here, I'm going to come down by 3.5 inches. Remember that my back neckline was just 1 inch. So if I'm coming down by 3.5 inches, that's making it 4.5 inches. So then I'll bring my ruler this way. I'll go ahead and connect it like this. And then I'll connect it to the neckline here. So can you see that? So I'm going to be cutting out this part. So remember that we are making an overlap. Okay, so I'll cut out this part. Okay, so now this is it. So basically this is what I need for my front, but this is what I will do. Remember that the armhole I cut was just the back armhole, so I'm just going to place this to cut the front armhole before I throw away this part, since this is the side that has my markings. Okay, so when you're doing yours, you can just use the side that has the markings so that you don't have to go and pick something you need to throw away. So here is my front armhole now. So here I have my front armhole now. This scissors is a bit blunt. So here I have my front armhole. So now I need 2 pieces of this. Before we go ahead and do that, you can see that this is a slanted line. So ordinarily, once you slant your line, it becomes longer. And we're making an overlap. You don't want your overlap to gape. Remember that the front half length of my client, remember I said is 16.5. So now you can see now that from here, taking my measurement, you can see that the length has increased because this is a slanted line. I'm making an overlap. Please take note of that. So I'm going to come to this point here and I'll go up by 1 inch. Can you say that? I'll go up by 1 inch. And then I'll also come to the neckline here. I'll come down by half of an inch. Okay, so let's treat the shoulder line first. So this half inch, I'll blend it into the shoulder slant like this. Can you see that? And then this 1 inch, I'll also blend it into the waistline like this. Okay, so now what the next thing to do is I'll cut this out. If you don't do this, you're going to have serious gaping. Okay, so now this is it. I'm going to cut out this part. So can you see where I finished up? I finished up at the center front. And then I'll also cut out this and blend it into the shoulder line like this. So this is what I have. So now let's take our measurement. So can you see that this now has reduced by 1.5? So everything I have here is 18 inches, which is fine because remember that it will be going from one side of the shoulder to the other side of the waistline. So I'm going to place this now. I'll cut out two pieces. I'll only be adding half inch to the base here because I'll be using it to join the down part of this gown, just like I added half inch to the back. Cut out the front piece. This is what I'm doing. Just make sure that your bust dart is closed, okay, except you want to sew your bust dart. If you want to sew your bust dart, that's fine, then you can leave it open, then you sew it together so that you have the bust dart and the waist dart running on the same outfit. In this case, I just want to have only the waist dart. Okay, so now I'm cutting out my front piece. I had to cut out the second part. So this is what we're going to have. I have exactly the same thing, but one is facing the right and then the other facing the left. Okay, so can you see how they are overlapping on each other? So now I'll still bring in my pattern because you want to notch where your dart is going to be, the waist dart, so that you sew on the right point. So here I'll place them like this, and then bring my pattern paper like this, and then notch this point. So you can see that this part now, another thing to do is to place my dart like my pattern paper like this, and also notch this point to indicate. You can use your tracing wheel to transfer marking so that you know that this is where your dart is. You can see that in this case, because I drafted on fold, it's showing a little. I can see it, but you may not be able to see it because the camera may not capture it. But folding it this way, I know that this is where my dart will be. So I'll place my pattern paper on the fabric like this and notch where the dart will be for the both of them. Remember that the two pieces are together. So I've notched the part where my dart will be. Okay, and then again you want to also measure the length of your dart. Take note that we took away 1 inch from this measurement. So now I know that the bust point of my client is on 10.5. So I can place my tape on 10.5, and then my dart, you can see that the dart is starting at 11.5. That's 1 inch below the bust point. So take note, see where it is. So the dart stops at 16 inches. Okay, sorry, 16.5 inches. Remember that we cut out that part. So but the other side, we didn't trim it out. That's this side. So that's 16.5 inches. So here is my dart at 11.5 inches. That's where it stops. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So my dart is 5 inches long. So when I'm sewing, I know that this dart should stop at 5 inches from the waistline. Okay, so please take note of that. So for the back piece now, can you see that when I place them together, haven't added my half inch for joining the waistline, you can see that my front and back piece now, they are all matching up. Can you see? They are all equal. So this is very necessary. So now the next thing I'll be doing, I'll cut out my facing for the back and front, then I'll show us how to cut the down flare. To cut the facing for the back, for the front, take note of the way I've placed my front piece on top of my fabric. So I'm going to trace out this line, this shape here, this neckline I have here. Okay, so and then I'll also come here to trace out the shoulder, because the facing is just going to be straight like this, and then I'll come here too and cut out this part. Then I can take it off like this. So can you see? This is what I have. This is what I'll be using for my facing. Okay, so now this is it. So now you want to indicate that this part is the upper part of the facing, that this side is going to be on the shoulder. Remember that this was how I placed my fabric. Okay, so this is the shoulder part, and then I also want to indicate that this side will be the side that will be joined to this part. Okay, because you can see that they are all looking alike, so that you don't get confused. So I'm going to come here and notch this part to indicate that this is the part that will be joined to this line here, or to this front opening. So now I have not this part and not this part, so I'm going to cut the second piece that will serve as the facing for the other side. So after cutting out my front facings, okay, this side, the front facing, and then I also have my back facing also. So can you see? So this is my back facing. Okay, so now the next thing to do, I'll get the center of this front pieces. My front pieces, the two are placed together. So I'll come here and place my pattern paper like this so that I can get the center. Okay, so this is my crease line. This is showing that this is my center. I'll come here and notch it also like this. So having notched it this way, okay, you see this is my center. So I'm going to now open up my two front pieces like this, and then I'll place them on top of each other. Remember that I notched one is my dart, and then the other is the front, the center front. Okay, so now this is what we have here. So by notching on top of each other, so this is what I'm going to have. So can you see? So the waist measurement of my client is 30 inches. So 30 divided by 4 is 7.5. So but now that my fabric is open, that's 15. So 15 plus 4 inches. 1 inch is for that on both sides, that's 17. That's 2. 1 inch for that on both sides, that's 2 inches, plus my 15, that's 17, plus sewing allowance, that's 19 inches. So let's reconfirm our measurement. So you can see I have my 19 inches, it's even a little above it. Of course, I said it's a stretchy fabric, so it will open up. So this is it. So now I know that what I have here on the waistline, I'm going to work with 19 inches. So I'll just trim out my small excess. Okay, or I'm going to leave it because I'm going to be using half inch to turn this side, so that will take care of it. That's to turn my facing. So now I have 19 inches on this waistline here. I'm going to have exactly the same thing too on this side. So can you see? So this is going to give me the same thing also on the waist. So now to cut the back piece, this is just to know what I will have on the waistline of my front, that's the down part, the two down part, the front and the back. So let's place it to cut the down part. So for my down part now, I've placed my fabric on fold. So now I'll be drafting. Remember that we said the waistline is 30 inches. So 30 divided by 4, that's my 7.5. So I won't be adding that to this out, that's to the down part. Remember that when we measured the upper part, we got 19 inches as it is open. But I won't be adding that to the down part. I only have that at the upper part. So I'll just be adding my 1 inch for sewing allowance. So basically now that means the front is now less with, the down part is now less with 1 inch on both sides. So that will leave me with 17 inches. So let's place our tape this way. So you can see this is 8.5 and it is on fold. So that's 17 inches. So the hip measurement I'm working with, the hip is 40. So 40 divided by 4, that's 10, plus my sewing allowance of 1 inch. Okay, so for the down part, I want it to be really wide. Okay, so here I have 25 inches in all. So I want this down part to be 23 inches. So here is my 23 inches. I'm just going to bring my ruler and connect it like this. Okay. So I'm just going to go directly to the waistline now. So take note of the placement of my ruler. So I'm going directly to the waistline. So you can see that I've added a little extra to the hip line. So this is just so that it opens up well. Okay. So now I'll bring my curl to this end here. So I don't want to have this sharpness around this hem here. I want it to be curvy here. So at the hem here, I'm just going to go up by 1.5 inches at the hem there, just to give it that nice shape at the hemline. So here at the hemline, I'll just come up by 1.5 inches. So 1.5 inches, and then I'll use my pattern master to connect it like this, just to give it that nice shape at the down part so that it's not straight and sticking out at the down part there. Okay, so here we are. So this is what I will have at the down part. So I need two of this. Take note that it's on fold. So I'm just going to place my fabric and cut the second one. I have to cut out the second piece, which is going to serve as the back. Okay, so from here, the full length of my client is 16 inches. So take note, I placed my tape from 16 inches. Remember that our upper body is, the front upper body is 16.5. So I placed it from 16 inches to indicate that I'm going to be using half inch to sew it. Okay, so instead of placing it exactly on 16.5, so I placed on 16 inches so that I'll use half inch for my sewing allowance. And then the full length is 60. So you can see I have my 2 inches for hemming allowance. So I'm not even going to be using 2 inches for my hemming allowance. I'm just going to be using half inch for my hemming allowance. This is just so that it flows to the floor. So her actual length is 60, and then this extra 1.5 will touch the ground, okay, to give that fullness on the ground, so that when she wears her heel, it just has a way of giving you that arrangement. You can make yours longer than this, that's fine, but this is just the extra that I have added. Okay, so now I'm going to take out one of the pieces. So this one I've removed will serve as the back piece, and then this second one I'm going to go down by half inch from the center front. This is because the front waistline is not straight, okay? So remember that we took out our bust dart, so it's giving it that curvy shape. So I'm going to also come down here to take out my waist sloper so that it doesn't give me any gathering or bulge on the waistline. Okay, so here on the waistline, I'm going to come down by half of an inch, depending on the person's size. This person is a slim person, so that's why I'm coming down by half of an inch. Those that are plus sizes, you can come down by 1 inch. So this is half of an inch here. So I'm going to just slant it towards the waist, that's to the side here. Excuse me. So I'll slant it to the side here and then cut it out. So now this is the front piece for the skirts, for the gown, okay, and the other one that is straight is the back piece. Can you see it's curvy around here because our front waistline for women is not straight, or are not straight. Okay, so we'll put this aside and then we'll cut our sleeve. I've gone ahead to fold my fabric to cut my sleeves. Okay, so this sleeve is going to be a bishop sleeve, that is going to be wide. Okay, it's a bishop sleeve I'm making. So the sleeve length of my client is 22 inches. So this sleeve is going to have a band. So 22 inches, I'm going to be subtracting 3 inches from the actual length. So that will give me 19 inches. But because I'm making a bishop sleeve and I want it to gather, to come down here and fall on top of the band, so that means I'm going to be increasing my length by 3 inches. So that will still bring me back to that 22 inches. But the length of my band will be 3 inches. So in all, the sleeve is going to be 25 inches long. I hope you understand. So I'm just going to mark my 22 inches here. So, and then I'll get the armhole. The round armhole of the client is 7.5 inches. So here is my 7.5 inches. So 7.5 inches. So I'm going to mark 1 inch before I start taking any of my measurements. So this is 1 inch from the center front of my sleeve. I'm gonna head to mark my 1 inch from the center front of my sleeve. So I'll start all my measurements from here, from this 1 inch, away from the 1 inch. So this is 7.5 inches here. So I will now come down by the cap's height of my client. Her cap's height is 3.5. How did I come about her cap's height? The bust divided by 6 and by 12, sorry. Bust divided by 12 plus half inch, that will give you the cap's height. And for her, her bust is 36. So 36 divided by 12, that's 3 plus half inch will give me 3.5. So here, I'm just going to create the upper part of my arm. I'm not going to go through this basic sleeve very well because I've done basic sleeve on this channel. So I'm just going to drop the link in the description box so that we can check it out. Okay, so this is just for me to get. Okay, so now from this part, I'm going to connect it to this place. I want it to be wider here. Remember I said we're making a bishop sleeve. So at this point, I'm going to have 13 inches. So this 13 inches will connect to this point. That's to the armhole measurement, 7.5 plus 1 inch, that's 8.5. So here we are like this. So can you see the shape I have? Okay, so let's confirm here. I have 8.5. So I'll connect it to this part, 8.5, and then I'll do my upper arm. So in case you don't know how to draft a basic sleeve, please check the description, the link in the description box. Okay, so this is the upper part of my sleeve, and then okay, so here we are. So I'm just going to go over half of an inch. Can you see the curve I have? So I now have my sleeve. Okay, so I'm going to place and cut the second piece of this sleeve. Then I'll show us what we're going to do with this 1 inch. So I've gone ahead to cut out the second sleeve. Okay, so what we'll be doing, I'm going to slash this part open. Okay, so this sleeve is going to have an opening here because we want to have an opening on the upper, from the upper arm down to the wrist. Okay, so I'm just going to slash it open. So this 1.1 inch I left here will be for my sewing allowance. So I'm just going to slash it open. So I'll do the same thing for the second one, and then I'll place my fabric to cut out the band. I've gone ahead to cut out my band. So my band is 10 inches wide because the round wrist of my client is 8 inches. So 10 inches, that's 1 inch sewing allowance on both sides. So when I fold like this, that will be 5 inches. So I have two of them, and then I cut it on fold. You can see. So it's on fold, and the length I have here is 3.5. Remember I said our band is going to be 3 inches long. So 3.5 half inches for joining it. Okay, so this is what we're going to be doing. Since we have slashed this part open, we're going to come and sew on half inch and 1 inch, sorry, which was what we added here. 1 inch, I'll sew it all the way down to 7 inches, from here to 7 inches, and then I'll fortify and stop here. So we'll leave this remaining part opened. So this part now, this down part, I'll just come here too and sew on 1 inch downwards, just 1 inch, leaving this part open so that I can now gather it together and fix this band to it. I'll do the same thing for the second one. Okay, so that's that for the sleeve. Then I'll show us how to sew our front pieces. For the sewing of the upper bodice, I'm going to be sewing the back facing like this. You place it right side facing right side, and then you sew on half inch round the neckline. So that's for the back. And then for the front here, remember that I notched the part that will be sewn this way. So this is it, so that you don't mistakenly interchange it. So this part will be sewn on this side, and then look at the shoulder part. So I'll be sewing it on half inch. Remember that we have half inch for our sewing, and I'll sew it on half inch so that I can flip it to the wrong side. So I'll do the same thing for the second side too, this way too. I'll place this. You can see the notched part. This is to indicate that this is this side, and then this part will also go to the shoulder. If you don't notch it, you will interchange them. You won't know when you interchange them. So I'm going to sew them too, and then I'll bring it back and show us the next thing to do. Thank you. So I've gone ahead to sew my dart. This is the back piece. You can see the dart is stopping on the chest line, that's on the armhole line. So this is it. And then I've also fixed my facing for the back. These are my front pieces. I've also sewn the facing, and I've also sewn my dart. So now I'm going to be fixing hemming gum to this part to hold the facing down. So this is just what you need to do. This is my hemming gum. You just cut, I can see. So this is the length I need, and then I'll place my facing this way. Okay, then bring in my iron. I'm using my step iron to press it. So when it releases steam, it has a way of really melting the hemming gum. Can you see? It's relaxed and it's well pressed. Okay, so I can see it's no longer opening. It has stuck to it. Okay, so this part, you can see this part, my hemming gum didn't reach that part, but that is fine. Okay, and then I'll also iron my dart. Okay, so this dart, I'm going to iron it towards this side. Since this is the dart, this is the part that is going to be on the left, so I'll just press it towards the left. So here we are. So this is what I have in front here. So I'll just repeat the same thing I've done on this one, on the second one, then I'll show us the next thing to do. So after pressing my facing down, so you can see it's no longer going off. Okay, so now the next thing to do is to place my front pieces together. Remember, I notched this part to show that this is the center front. Okay, so I'm going to bring the other piece too like this and place it center front on center front. So here we are. So can you see how front pieces are overlapping on top of each other? So here we have our notches that indicates that this is our center front. And remember, we have sewn our darts. Okay, so let's measure and see what we have here. So I've sewn our darts. Can you see that we have 17.5 inches? Remember, I said we're working with the waist of 15 inches. That's 30 inches. 30 divided by 2 because this is open. So we have 17.5 inches. So that means I have 1¼ on both sides. Okay, remember, I'm working with a stretchy fabric. That's why it expanded. Okay, so this is it. So I have my 1¼ on both sides. So here is my back piece. So now for the front piece, before we talk about the back piece, now that I've overlapped them, I'm going to sew them together down at the hem here where they overlap on each other. I'm just going to stitch them together. So that's the essence of pinning them together. So I'll sew them together. So after sewing them together, the next thing I'll do is to take my back piece and join them on the shoulder. Okay, so I'll be placing wrong side, that's right side facing right side, and then I'll join the shoulder at this point. Okay, so that's that for the upper bodies. So now for the sleeve, here is what we have. So remember that I cut with a sewing allowance of 1 inch and an allowance of 1 inch. So can you see? So I joined my sleeves together with 7 inches. Can you see? From the tip to 7 inches, and then I stopped. Then I went down to join it at 1.5. This is because I want to have this opening here. So can you see? So the next thing now to do is to press this to relax so that I can top stitch it. So I'm going to show us this because I've done this already. I just decided to use this to show us. So can you see how it is? I top stitched it. So at the back here you can see it's no longer showing. Okay, so and then I went ahead to gather the sleeve to my 10 inches, which is for my band. Okay, which is for the band. So now this sleeve, I'll gather it to this 10 inches, and then I'll sew the band to it. Okay, I'll sew the band to it and then fix it to the upper bodice. That's just sew my sleeve to the upper bodice, and then I'll come back and show us how to join the lower part. Head to join the shoulders. Can you see? I've joined the shoulder. So for the facing, just the same way I applied hemming gum to the facing of the front, I'm going to also do the same for this one. So I've shown us that I can do that off camera. Okay, so now for my sleeves, I've sewn my sleeves also and I've woven it. Can you see what we have? So this is it. So now it's time for us to fix the lower part of the wrap and of the overlap. Okay, so this is my front piece here. So this is the down part. So this one that is straight is for the back. Remember that the front we came down by 1/2 inch. So and remember I notched the front, so this is to indicate that this is my front. So I'm going to just place it right side facing right side. This is how it is, right side facing right side, and then I'll sew it on 1/2 inch. Okay, so let me just pin it and show us. Okay, so here we are. So I'm just going to sew on 1/2 inch. So you can see I have excess by the side. I'll just trim it out. So the same thing, I'm going to pick my back also, and then I'll place it like this, right side facing right side, like this. So whatever excess I have also, I'll trim it out. So I just want to pin this down. So make sure that whatever excess you have here is the same thing you have here. So you can do that by just notching to get your midpoint. Okay, so this is it. So now I'll take to my sewing machine and sew on 1/2 inch. And by the time I'm done sewing, this is what I should have this way. I'll do the same thing for the front. Remember that I added a sewing allowance of just 1 inch. So by the time I'm done with the waistline, the next thing to do is to just weave the waistline and then shape my dress on 1 inch. This dress does not have a zipper because I'm working with a stretchy fabric, so you don't need a zipper. But in a situation where you want a zipper, then you add your zip allowance to the center back, or you use your side seam allowance as your zip allowance. That means you're going to have a side zipper. Okay, that's if you don't want to have a visible zipper that you see at the back. So you can use your sewing allowance as a side zipper. For me, I don't need a zip allowance. I'm working with a stretchy fabric. I'll do that and then place the dress on the mannequin so that we can see it. So I've shaped my dress on 1 inch. I've shaped the dress on 1 inch, and then I've also hemmed the bottom. Can you see what we have? I've hemmed the bottom. So let me turn it to the right side so that we can see. I've also gone ahead to put my hemming gum, to apply hemming gum to the facing at the back. This is what it looks like from the right side. We need to press it well, give it a good press, and then okay, so this is what our dress looks like on the mannequin. Can you see the sleeve opening? Can you see how beautiful it turned out? And then here too, can you see the sleeve opening? So can you see our overlap? Came out really nice. So I pinned the waistline of my mannequin just to give it, because my client's waistline is 30 and the mannequin's waistline is 26. So of course it's bigger, so I just pinned it a little at the back. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please like this video, share with your friends, and do not forget to subscribe. Please also put on the notification bell. Thank you for watching this video. See you in my next video. Bye.